What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's Best Movies of 2024, a list of my personal favorites for the year of 2024. As always, if you like what you see on the channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at top to find what's coming next, and if you like this video, awesome, hit that like button. Okay, so 2024 was a very good year for movies. Maybe not as good as 2023, but it was a quality year. It had some great animated films, had some great live action movies. It was a year that had one of my favorite movies of the decade, like with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it's just been a good year, to be fairly honest, for a year that has had some problems when it comes to the nature of events in history and of course America and so on and so forth, what's going on in the world. There was some really good movies that came out this year. So as I always do, I'll have 5 honorable mentions and then I'll have a top 10 of what I consider to be my personal favorite movies of the year. So with that said, yours is going to be different than mine, so just be aware this is what I feel are the 10 best films of 2024. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Our honorable mentions are, of course, Heretic. I thought Hugh Grant was amazing. Hopefully he gets an Oscar nomination. This is a movie that really dug deep into your soul, into the state of like what religion is. It's a really, really good movie. Another one is A Real Pain, which missed my top 10 just because that's how good the end of the year was. This is a really good movie with Jesse Eisenberg and of course Kieran Culkin, who's probably going to win the Oscar. It's a very, very sad, but also very kind of upbeat movie about two cousins who find each other in, of course, Poland. But another one I have is Nosferatu, which once again just missed my top 10. It's a movie that has a lot of style, has a lot of vibe. It's definitely a Robert Eggers movie, so it's not going to be for everyone. But I love what Bill Skarsgård does as Nosferatu. I love what Lily Rose Depp's doing in this movie, Nicholas Holt's doing in this movie. It's a very, of the type that very creepy, very dark, but very kind of in your face about the sexual abuse and sexual encounters and stuff like that. So it's a very, very good movie. I definitely recommend it. Another one is Blink Twice. This was definitely difficult to take out of my top 10 because that's how good this year was. This is a great movie that was directed by Zoe Kravitz in her first film. It has, of course, Channing Tatum and Naomi Ackie, and it's just a really disturbing, really quality put together film with a lot of great messaging. And my last one for this list that definitely missed my top 10 was Kneecap. This is a great film about the band or the rap group Kneecap from, of course, Ireland. It's a really, really good movie. It's a really quality, kind of in your face, very about the subject matter, and does a really nice job with what it's doing. It has the real rappers in the real group, and I think it's just a movie that is highly recommended. So those are my top 5 honorable mentions. Those are just ones that just missed my top 10. And it just shows you the kind of year that we had. But with that said, let's go ahead and head into my top 10 with the first film, which is... So number 10 is a French one-shot or quote-unquote one-shot movie called Mads. This was one of the best horror films I've seen this year. It's a vampire movie, spoiler alert, but it's a movie where you watch the chaos slowly unfold as it moves along. You start with one character and it moves into another character. And it's just a well put together, very slick movie with a lot of great set pieces, a lot of great action, a lot of great horror. And it's like, Mandy or something like that, where it just takes a subject matter, runs with it, and holds nothing back. It's similar to like Late Night with the Devil, which was another great movie of this year. But it's a well shot movie. It has a lot of style and a lot of substance. It is a great French horror film. So if you have not seen Mads, it's on Shudder. Very well produced, very much a worthy successor, or a very good vampire movie in a lot of respects. So with that said, that is number 10, and number 9 is... So number 9, it shows you how difficult this year is. A lot of people will put Conclave as their number 1 movie. I get that. It's a fantastic movie. It's a, very small, very in-your-face movie about how difficult it is to elect a pope, the machinations of like how, people will like backstab people, the nature of like how the Catholic Church is just kind of a mess. And it has great performances by Ray Fiennes and John Lithgow and, Stanley Tucci. It has like one of the most like crazy like oh my god endings that you'll ever see in a movie this year, and I just found it absolutely fascinating. It's a great movie by Edward Berger. and I think it's a movie worth a watch. So it's on Peacock right now. It's one of those that you'll definitely see an Oscar play, but definitely check out Conclave. So that's on my number 9, and number 8 is. What I think is the most beautifully shot movie of the year that is told from the first person point of view, which of course is Nickel Boys. This was a movie that just kind of completely caught me off guard. It's not that I didn't want to see this. I just didn't really know much about it, but it's a movie about a school, a fictional school, but based off a true school, about abuse in a Tallahassee school. It's riveting to watch. It has great performances in it. It is a movie that really is something truly remarkable as a movie, and I hopefully hope it gets some Oscar love, at least cinematography, because it, like with Nosferatu, it's just a mesmerizing movie to watch. It's a difficult movie to watch, but the way it's shot, the fact that it'll switch between the two boys and it'll actually from their point of view is really interesting. So I highly recommend Nickel Boys. It's not an easy watch. It's actually quite a long movie at like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it is highly well done and one of the best movies I've seen this year. So at number 8, I have Nickel Boys, and number 7, I have. So this isn't the best animated movie of the year, but it's pretty close if I hadn't seen another movie. Memoir of a Snail is an absolutely riveting, very somber, but very sweet movie about a young woman who is kind of separated from her brother, and how she feels kind of lost in this world, how snails represent like that loss, and how it's something that we hold dear and close. And it's just a well-produced, very kind of melancholy but great movie. It's a very uplifting in a lot of spots. It has a lot of humanistic approaches, and the director and the stars, Sarah Snook plays the main girl, and it's an absolutely riveting animated film. I absolutely loved it. I think it's one of those movies that can be difficult to watch. It is a little, I think it's about 90 minutes long or something like that, but it's a well produced, it's great, it's fantastic. It's claymation too, which is pretty great, so it's definitely worth a watch. So Memoir of a Snail is number 7, and number 6 we have. Now, I know at number 6 you haven't heard of this movie before. I hadn't heard of this movie before until I was sent a screener. It's from the directors of Peanut Butter Falcon. It's produced by Lord Miller. It's, of course, Los Freakis. This is a movie about Cuba and the escape from Fidel Castro in the 1990s. It's about the AIDS epidemic. It's about boys and girls who are trying to get away, so they stick themselves with an AIDS from an AIDS individual. But it's about humanity. It's about the love that individuals have with music and with the creative approach. It's about how people find like lightness in darkness situations. But it's also a very sad movie because of the situation at hand with AIDS and stuff like that. It's a movie that completely broke me in a lot of aspects. It's a movie that just really makes you feel something, and I love this movie. I think it's going to be a movie that's not going to be seen by a lot of people, but it's a movie I highly recommend. It's a movie that I think you should watch if you get a chance, and Los Freakis is definitely something I highly recommend if you can handle the subject matter. I think it's like close to 2 hours, but it's definitely worth a watch. So at number 6 is Los Freakis, and number 5 we have. So talk about being caught way off guard. Wicked Part 1, we're just going to call it Wicked Part 1, was something I wasn't expecting to like at all. I mean, it's about Oz. I love Wizard of Oz, but I'm like, this looks weird. I never really wanted to see the musical. I want to see the musical now. This is absolutely wonderful. This is grand in scope. This is grand in delivery. John M. Chu just absolutely delivers and punches out of the park. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande just deliver an absolutely powerful performance between one another. It's a movie that is very much reminiscent of those very 50s, very 40s grand scale musicals that we truly love. And it's just a wonderful production of the actual musical. It's something that hit with everybody for the most part. It felt like, for the fact that it was 2 hours and 40 minutes and the original musical was 2 hours and 40 minutes, it really was kind of a crazy thing. And it's just grand in scale and beautiful and one of the best movies I've seen this year. So it didn't quite make, the top 3 or anything like that. But for a lot of people, we do definitely agree it's a fantastic wonderful musical and best movie of the year. So there you go. So number 5, I have Wicked Part 1, and at number 4 we have Okay, so I got to give a shout out to Trivial Theater for putting me onto this film. I did not expect to know anything about this or like it. It's, of course, Hundreds of Beavers. Hundreds of Beavers is one of the most fun movies I've seen in ever, to be fairly honest. It's wacky, it's violent, it's crazy. It's very much in that Looney Tunes vibe. It's a movie that is ambitious. It doesn't look like it's highly budgeted, but it takes the budget and runs with it. And I love the fact that it is 3 costumes with beavers, and they multiply those costumes, and they use visual work, and they just make this absolutely avant-garde, crazy, silly, just fun, entertaining of a film. And it's a movie that I can't get out of my head. I'll never be able to get out of my head just how wacky and over the top and silly and just beautiful this movie is. So Hundreds of Beavers, Mike Chislick's film, his first directorial effort after being a writer in the last film. Highly recommend. It is a lot of fun, but it is very, very goofy. So if you don't like Looney Tunes or Joe Dante type films, I wouldn't recommend it, but I think it's one of the best movies I've seen this year. So at number 4 is Hundreds of Beavers, and at number 3 we have Okay, so this was going to be my number. This is how this year stacked as it went along. The Substance was originally going to be my number 1 until a couple other movies came out. This movie is crazy. This movie is insane. This movie is wonderful. It's a testament to how a director like Corey Fajal can take a movie and have a lot of messaging about women and, you know, as they grow older and how they're kind of thrown aside. And this movie is a insane trip. It really is. Margaret Qualley is really good in this movie. Dennis Quaid's really good in this movie. Demi Moore is Oscar worthy in this movie, an Oscar nomination at least. This movie takes the potential of could be campy and silly and over the top and completely just like runs with it. It has some of the best moments in this and I've seen this year when it comes to visceral horror, body horror. This movie has great acting. It has great set pieces. It has great production design. It has like really interesting concepts when it comes to like what the most popular shows are on TV. It's a movie that really takes the nature of beauty and how beauty works in Hollywood and completely delivers. And I think it's one of the best movies I've seen this year. It's one of the best body horror movies I've seen since something of like David Cronenberg's ilk when it comes to what he's capable of doing, like Videodrome and stuff like that. But it's a movie that really is something truly special. It's on Mubi right now. It's highly recommended. It is a little long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it is one wild hell of a ride, for I'll be honest with you. So Substance is at number 3, highly recommended. And at number 2, we have All right, so Sing Sing is a movie that completely, once again, like Los Freakis, broke me into a million pieces. This movie is an absolutely wonderful, it's an absolutely devastating, it's an absolutely beautiful take on how stuff like Shakespeare or how stuff like the arts can really transform individuals. I think Clarence Macklin, who is one of the writers of this movie, absolutely deserves the Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He's absolutely wonderful in this movie. He is a revelation, the guy that actually was in this program. I love Coleman Domingo in this movie. I think he's absolutely fantastic. If it weren't for Daniel Craig and Queer, I think he would have been the best actor of this year for me. It's a movie that really has its heart in all the good places, and it really has a message about how things can affect us in the right place and right time. And I have all the love in the world for this movie. It's going to get a lot of Oscar wins or at least Oscar nominations, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful movie. It really is. It's a difficult movie to watch sometimes because of the nature of where it's at, but Sing Sing is highly recommended. That's why it's at number 2. Once again, it would have been at number 1, but I had another movie come out that really broke me, and yeah. So at number 2 is, of course, Sing Sing, which leads me to number 1, which is... So this should be no surprise to you if you watch my video and all at this point 7.3 thousand people have or 7,300 views have. Flow is one of the most beautiful animated films I've seen ever. It's one of those movies that I don't think I was expecting to truly fall in love with. This might go up there as one of my favorite movies ever because it's a movie about friendships. It's a movie about differences in humanity and how we can come together and work as one another. It's about an apocalyptic scenario that people find themselves in. It uses ideas of like Noah's Ark. It uses the idea of like how the world is an unstable place, and it uses a lot of metaphors that really helps this movie deliver in such a passionate, such a beautiful emotion. Then it allows these animals to be animals and act like real animals, like the cat and the capybara and the secretary bird and the dog. They all act like they act, but there's like a humanistic approach to like the secretary bird and the capybara and the lemur and stuff like that. They act like animals, but they have humanistic qualities, and it just is a movie that is astounding that it was made in Blender, to be fairly honest, because a lot of anime movies are not made like that. And it just shows you that anyone with any form of passion with something like Blender in a decent, mid-level computer, or just on their phone, like with some movies that are coming out soon. It's just a passionate project that you could just do on your own, and it really shows, and I think is an absolutely mesmerizing. It's devastating at points, it's beautiful at points, and it's why it's my favorite movie of the year, one of the decade's best movies I've seen, and is up there with like Everything Everywhere All at Once, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's it makes me tear up every time I think about this movie. It made my friends cry. It's a beautiful movie. So number one, I had to put Flow. I think it's a wonderful movie, so there you go. Anyways, with that said, that is my top 10 best movies of the year. Highly recommend every single one of these movies. Some may not be for you. Most may be. It just all depends. But, as you notice, there's some movies that are bigger budget that are in there, and there's reasons why. But overall, it's been a pretty good year. So I really think it's been a great year for movies. With that said, we are coming up to the most anticipated 2025, which should be a good one. So I do appreciate you watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Comments below as always. Let me know what your favorite movie of this year was. If you have a top 10, let me know as well. Once again, I understand if these don't agree with you. That's perfectly fine. That's why it's my top 10 movie emporiums. But that's how I lie. So with that said, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys for the next video. Peace out, guys.